Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm SirAshtown, and join with me today is Daled Bellido from Toronto, Canada. Dale, how are you doing today?
Doing good. I say Toronto, but it's a suburb outside of Toronto. Anyone from Canada will tell you, even if they're from any suburb around, just it's easier to be safer from Toronto.
No, as a uncultured American, I appreciate the distinction.
It's everybody. It's funny because anyone you meet from Canada, they'll be like, "How is everybody from Toronto?" We just all say that. It's a thing we say.
Dale has been a longtime TCG player and now Lorcana player who has had some great success in the scene. And so really excited to hear about your escapades and how you've been doing in Lorcana. But before we kind of jump into that and talk about maybe a deck list that you're looking to play, could you tell us a little bit about your past TCGs that you played before Lorcana?
Yeah, and it goes back to early 2000s with Yugioh. Just one day, my younger brother came home with cards. I watch him watch TV, and he's watching this cartoon, which happened to be Yu-Gi-Oh! And there's a card game behind it, and then we get into it together. I take that competitively for quite some time. Short-lived Yu-Gi-Oh! Hall of Fame, managed to make it into that. I took it to the level that I want to take Lorcana to. A champion, top 25 player all time, and we'll go on with 2 videos if I have to talk about my Yu-Gi-Oh! Past, but predated. I started Yu-Gi-Oh! Very similar to how I start Lorcana. I like to get into games at the very beginning, ground level, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Was kind of like that. I got into it, and there was only 2 sets at the time.
Well, talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And your time spent in that, it sounds like you had a ton of success and you're a well-known figure within the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. What was some of your favorite aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh! That you really enjoyed and let you stick to the game for so long?
It was 100% the friends I made. The friends that I made in that game, like, we were part of each other's. I was part of their wedding parties. Like, we grew up together. We were kids. We became men. It helped that we were winning, and like I like to win, and it helped that my brother was probably the most decorated player of that era. It was nice that I got my win before him, so I was popular first. And as he started to rise the ranks, I kind of was on his coattails. For a little while, whenever both of us made day 2, one of us would win.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so on Sunday, playing day 2, if both of us were in there, it was kind of like a talk between the top, like the people in top 32 or the top players at the time, like, well, one of these 2 guys are going to win because history's been repeating itself. And then I think it finally broke in 2008, 2009. So about 4 years after competitive play. For Yu-Gi-Oh! The first regionals, I qualified for first nationals. The first nationals, I finished second. The first, compared to a DLC in Yu-Gi-Oh! To Lorcana, I won my first Shonen Jump.
That's really cool to hear, just the camaraderie like you were talking about with your friends that you built up within the community of Yu-Gi-Oh! But then also too the sibling rivalry that it sounded like you and your brother had of who's going to get the big win, who's going to make day 2, and that's really neat.
Yeah, I was older brother for a while, but it definitely changed after, so.
Kind of like you were saying, you got into Lorcana early on because it's a new TCG. I myself, I love being, like you said, at the beginning, the forefront of kind of help creating a community and being a part of what the competitive scene is going to be like for a new trading card game. Looking into Lorcana play and the competitive scene in Lorcana so far, what have been some of your major finishes in tournament play?
I've been to every DLC so far in North America, and I've gone 4 in a row. And in Chicago, I finished in top 8. Fort Worth, I finished 32. Toronto, I finished 32. 32 just recently in Las Vegas. I have my NAS invite, so that's pretty cool. Hope to continue it. Looking to go 5 in a row at the end of the month.
Well, looking at set 5, and we're coming close to the end, but we have one more challenge in Seattle. What's been your favorite color pairing so far in set 5, and maybe one of your favorite cards?
So, no mystery that every event that I played, I'm known to play green steel. Even Bucky, without Bucky, to now innovated the morph shift deck. Playing it in Toronto, it was a skeleton that was used to win, used by Zan. But set 5, favorite card has to be Pete. The cards were getting spoiled everyone was talking about the best card in the set being, I think Mufasa was one of the first, Naveen, Daisy. I'm like, Pete is the most insane card. It's literally shuts off a card type per turn. Like anything like that is so powerful. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, they have a card like that called Cold Wave, and that's Pete. Like every game has something like that.
Yeah, Pete is a strong card. And looking at Disney Lorcana Challenge Seattle, you have a list that you've kind of prepared that is Emerald Steel. Is that a strong deck that you think will perform well? And is that possibly going to be the one that you'll be taking to DLC Seattle?
So that one is my set champs list. So it is an after Vegas deck. After Green Steel got popular, I do still think it is going to be a heavily represented deck, a very strong deck, very good into the field, only because in best of 2 format, Green alone, Emerald alone has a lot of cards that can help you get information, and Steel has a lot of answers for rogue decks.
I want to say this store champ season, I have seen the widest variety of color pairings win local store champs than I have almost in any other set so far. Are there any that you've seen pop up that causes you to pause and maybe have to test out more for your preparations for Seattle?
Nothing new. The resurgence of certain colors makes me color combos. Like for example, Blue Steel, heavily popularized by Jonathan Mann, and that is starting to come back into the limelight. Naturally, a deck that could give Green Steel a problem. But part of the reason that you're seeing a lot of cool color combinations is Maribels are in top 8 now and not in top 4. And it gives people a little bit more, try out more things. So you don't necessarily need to show up with the best possible deck. For me, I could only play 1 set champs for this month, and I kind of needed to win, so I was going to go to tried and tested. For me, I needed to take a Maribel home. But everybody else, if they're playing multiple set champs, it's fun to take something different, and people are definitely risking it because it's easier to obtain the prize.
Now, talking about some of the top players in Lorcana, we've talked about names like Kindle and Beat Candio. There's a new 8v8 Pixelborn Connect tournament that's being kind of tossed around on Twitter and other places. But can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because right now you're in the running to represent North America in that tournament. Is that right?
Yeah, it's actually pretty exciting, and I hope it's run by Pavel. Done wonders for the community, and he's giving back with another showcase of some of the strongest talent in the game. Fan voted top 8 players from North America versus Europe. The current top 8 players for the North American side are guys that I would love to have side by side. I think there's probably 15 top 10 players in North America. It's so hard to put everybody there. And there's only 8 spots, and I'm fortunate enough to have a spot. As of right now, on the 10th, there's only 10 more days of voting. Everything ends on the 20th. But I hope to stay in the running.
Well, if you're watching this video and it is before the 20th, head on over. We'll have that link in the description for the Pixelborn Connect tournament coming up, and vote for Dale. That way he can represent us.
Yes, I really appreciate that. And if you want to see more Green Steel, it's funny. So Green Steel did not do well in Birmingham, which was the same weekend as Vegas, but that was all red-blue. Green Steel in Vegas, hopefully we could do the same thing there, the Emerald Steel Uprising.
That would be great, and we're looking forward to watching that. I know that they're going to have really some great talent too that are going to be casting the event, so that should be a lot of fun. So tune in to find out more. Well, Dale, while we got you here, would love to have an overview of the deck that you're playing for Store Championships, and maybe a great deck for someone to even think about and tweak maybe just a little bit for their play style looking at DLC Seattle. Could you give us a quick overview of your deck and kind of the main aspects of it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the prototype Zan's version of Green Steel, what he ended up winning with Hypnotizes. So not necessarily on 4 Hypnotizes. This is geared a little bit more for more mirror matches. So more Green Steel being popular that you see Tinkerbell in, but again, it's hard to predict. So Green Steel can be built so differently, as you saw Chris in 2nd place. I think him and Zan were 4 cards off. The decks they do operate a little differently in the mirror match, and it's kind of just rolling the dice to see what your matchups are. If you do your best to build a deck that is good, pretty good against every matchup, versus a deck that dominates certain matchups and you're willing to sacrifice one or take away from that, I think that's the better approach. If you make your deck too fair versus, oh, I want to be good against everything, you're just going to, in my opinion, you lose to variance. You lose to the other decks just drawing the way they normally draw. If Seattle was tomorrow, that deck that I had with set champs is the deck that I run. But if you're more worried about red blue, for example, you lean heavier into the discard side, or you can take it the other way and go heavier into Zach's approach, where Zach Bivens was more aggro. You can lean into that side, but doing that, you sacrifice the mirror match. You sacrifice the other steel matchups, and the biggest variable is changing right now. Green steel wasn't on anyone's radar. If you looked at all of the events or all of the videos beforehand, no one was talking about green steel as a tier 1 deck. Crazy that a lot of the top players in the game came with a green steel deck. If you look at the last 3 champions that were at that event, all of them were on green steel. And for everyone, all the top players to come to a thought that, hey, this is the best deck and no one's talking about it, definitely had the surprise factor, where that's not the same coming into Seattle. But people are heavily leaning into, how do I answer green steel? You got to get lucky with your matchups. That's kind of how you do well at DLCs. Best of 2 format's very unforgiving, but if you are leaning for more aggro, you go for more control cards. If you're assuming that everything is going to be red-blue, you have to roll the dice on which approach you want. Do you want to go aggro, or do you want to go discard? The beauty about green steel is everything can be shifted within 5 to 6 cards. If you were to tell me that in a 9-round tournament I'm going to play Ruby Sapphires, I'm not running this deck. I'm running an aggro version of green steel. So that definitely changes. As the deck is constructed, I'm going to lean towards finding my discard pieces.
Well, Dale, thank you so much for interviewing with us today and for giving us this broad overview of the deck. Before we kind of leave for today, if they want to reach out to you maybe for other content, are you doing anything else out there on YouTube or Twitch, or people can find you at?
I'm launching a Metafy that is probably going to go public. So right now the skeleton of it is out there. I haven't published it yet, but I'm still working out the kinks, and it's generally a coaching service where you are in my brain. There's different tiers that you can go to when you subscribe to the Metafy. That green steel guide is not just a one-time buy this guide type of thing. It is a ever-evolving as set 6 comes out, or how the meta changes, because guides are only for that point in time. As the meta changes, the matchups, the cards played in certain matchups are different. So that guide, although still has some use, is very different. It kind of gets outdated very quickly as the metagame goes. My Metafy is going to have my updated guide, my updated list, what I would run at an event, and certain tier levels. You'll know my deck that I'm taking into the event, any changes that I make before I submit a deck list. The guide changes as the metagame shifts. That's the biggest thing, because you could buy a guide right now, but it's only for that point in time. Yeah, you could call it green steel versus red blue right now. The way the metagame shifts, that original guide only has so much merit, where the game is shifted, and that's where you're going to see the benefit in this monthly type of subscription, where I can run through the reps for you, and then I want to take this game to the next level in competitive play as a whole.
I'm really excited to see kind of where Lorcana goes, especially as we head into Continentals, into Worlds, but post Worlds, because this is the first time we're going to see what's going to happen with Lorcana. And after a competitive season, is there going to be a lull? Is it going to pick right back up? What's next? And so, like you were saying, really excited for it. And for you, the viewers at home, if you're wanting someone to coach you, someone to guide you through, especially playing a list like Emerald Steel, but also Lorcana in general, Dale's a great player, and you can catch him at Metafy, which will have the link in the description below. For those players who are looking to compete at the highest level like you are right now, is there any advice that you could give to them that they should really try to stick to as they're trying to play competitively?
Trust your instincts is one of them, but deck building and metagaming. I think the metagame calls are what is going to separate the people who make day two to the people who win. Metagaming and metagaming alone is very difficult. I would do my best to, yes, if you want to get to the next level, join a community. Join a community of top players, people that are looking for the same results, same goals, because day two, there's 64 slots. There's a lot of slots to get, and I've seen tons of teams with tons of players on it, like Labyrinth, like Forbidden Mountain, have strong representation going into day two, and they just work together. You need to find a group. It's very hard to do it alone. There's some outliers that do it alone. Those are special talents, but to get there, you have to be part of a team. You have to be part of a community first. So network, grow your team, grow your skills. It makes the game a little bit more fun, and it makes winning more fun when you're doing it with your friends and doing it with individuals that are also after the same goal.
Dale, we really appreciate the advice you've given us, and I can't agree with you more that playing in a community with a group of people who are also having the same mindset can really help elevate your game state and how you do at events. And again, thank you so much for giving us a broad overview into Emerald Steel and just to hear about your journey across trading card games. It's really great to hear, I will say, a Yu-Gi-Oh legend as he's coming into Lorcana. Thank you so much, Dale, for joining us today, and for you, Tony Lore Pro, the viewers. Hopefully we'll catch you soon, Dale, and you, the viewers, in the next video.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.